So recently I played Mass Effect Andromeda again, and to be fair, I was still disappointed with it overall as a Mass Effect story, but overall story was not that bad. And after playing this game completely to its full completion, I was thinking about what would be the best Mass Effect continuation and what actually BioWare or anyone who would take the Mass Effect mantle could do in order to create the future Mass Effect game. So in this video, I will be speculating or just maybe giving my wishes or what I would want to see in the future Mass Effect games. So it's a pure speculation and it's made only to instigate the conversation with you, the Mass Effect fans, whether what you want to see in a future Mass Effect game. So even before you would finish watching this video, you can go in the comments down below and tell me what do you want to see in a future Mass Effect game. It doesn't have to be an RPG or anything like that. Maybe you want some kind of different game. I'm open to the conversation and I really want to hear what you want to see in a future Mass Effect games. So while thinking of what future Mass Effect games could be, I came out actually with 4 different types of games that future Mass Effect could continue. So it was a bit difficult to choose what I want to see in the future. So let me just talk about all the future Mass Effect games that I would want to see in the future. I actually wrote them all down, so let me just gather my thoughts and just read whatever I want to see. So first Mass Effect game that I would actually would like to see was Mass Effect Andromeda 2. Yes, even though Mass Effect Andromeda was an utter disappointment and disaster, but it was still not a bad game and you could actually play and enjoy this game. But as a Mass Effect game, it was lackluster compared to even the first Mass Effect game. So Mass Effect 2 is still the best, Mass Effect 3 is still good despite its ending, and Mass Effect 1 is still good despite its being the first in its series. But Andromeda was arguably probably the worst game of the Mass Effect franchise. But what would Mass Effect Andromeda 2 do in order to be the better game? Actually a lot. Mass Effect Andromeda has quite a good setting and it could actually be a very good continuation of Mass Effect Andromeda and even rival the Mass Effect 2 or even 3. What would I want to see in Mass Effect Andromeda 2 is the continuation of the story, because there were so many loose ends left and it was very apparent that developers were thinking of something big when they're creating Mass Effect Andromeda, and probably they were thinking of the Mass Effect Andromeda 2. So what I want to see from it as a game is the living world in the first place. I want to see the world of Mass Effect Andromeda. I want to see the people doing their job on Nexus or on Arcs or on the planets. I want to see the living world of the Helios cluster of entire Andromeda. What I want to see is something like a Witcher 3 cities. If you remember the Witcher 3, you see that everybody were doing their jobs, the quests were happening on random, you could meet and stumble upon different things, and it would give you the ability to feel the world. I want to see something like that. Even though in the Mass Effect 2 and 3 it was apparent, in some way it was not that big, but you should understand that Mass Effect 2 and 3 were made in the world pre-Witcher 3 and pre-Cyberpunk 2077, even though at this moment Cyberpunk is still not yet released. But the living world that Witcher 3 created and the Cyberpunk is promising us is completely huge, and probably Mass Effect should aim towards this living world and probably even overshadow it. I want to feel the world. I want to feel the universe in the same way that I was feeling in Mass Effect, even in Mass Effect 2 and 3, and most importantly in Witcher 3, which would have been incredibly great thing. Next thing that I want to see in Mass Effect Andromeda 2 is a bigger threat. Yes, like in Mass Effect main trilogy, I want to see in Andromeda a bigger threat. There was no threat in Mass Effect Andromeda. The only threat was an Archon who just wanted to conquer the entire galaxy, and he did not have enough power to do so. Even though he was the major player in Andromeda Galaxy, he was still the small part of the Cat Empire, as it turns out. Spoiler alert, I guess, but yeah, it was just merely mentioned in a game that he was a small part of the game, of the Cat game, and even remnants are still existent somewhere, and there is someone who remnants ran away from. So there is potentially a bigger threat there, and I want to see this in Mass Effect Andromeda 2. I don't want to have a loose ends in Mass Effect Andromeda 2. I don't want to see the loose ends. I don't want to have preparations for the Mass Effect Andromeda 3. No, finish it on a second game. Like Mass Effect Andromeda 1 just didn't do anything to just prepare for us for the trilogy. So just finish it on a second game and just do it with the bang to say that, okay, Mass Effect is back, like maybe like the Halo did, or like Halo established a bigger franchise. Do this with a Mass Effect. Like, go out with the bank, no loose ends, and most importantly, focus on the characters. Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 was amazing because it was focusing on the characters. I don't really care about any of my squad mates in Mass Effect Andromeda. I really don't care. And most importantly, I don't care about protagonist Ryder as well. I really don't care about him. Make this, like, fix this. I don't want this to be the case. Fix this. Characters was amazing part of Mass Effect 2 and 3. Do this the same for Mass Effect Andromeda 2. And I want more lore. I want to see the history of Mass Effect Andromeda. I want to see the history of Andromeda Galaxy, of Helios Cluster. So you want to say that on the entire history of the Helios Cluster, there were only one alien species, which is Ingarans, and there was remnants, and there are no one else? What, were there Reapers who was wiping out the species every 3,000 years? No, it was no one like this here. I want to see more aliens, more history, more lore. Please, fix this. Make this happen. Okay, this is the things that I want from the Mass Effect Andromeda 2, but that's not all that I want from the Mass Effect franchise. What I want to see is maybe not a big RPG games, but maybe a smaller, very narrow type of other games. Yes, I would love to see the Mass Effect action game. Even though it would not be a big part of the Mass Effect universe like the RPGs are, I would love to see some kind of action game from the Mass Effect universe. Maybe it's some Gear style game, a very linear style game for $40 or maybe $50 game. I would love to see something like that. But what about the setting? Well, there's so many settings that you could do this story in. I would say like just a few of them. First Contact War, the first alien encounters of human Centurion. Krogan Rebellions, the war story that ended with the Genophage. Rachni Wars, Prothean Wars, even war stories from the books about young Anderson or a young Saren. There's so many things that you could do and establish the story game like in Mass Effect 2. Maybe don't do like as expensive as the Mass Effect 2 is, maybe don't do an RPG style, but you can do a bunch of action games and or maybe even action RPGs or just pure action shooters, third-person shooters in Mass Effect universe, just to have it as a separate spin-off games of the Mass Effect. You could do like so many things, just not just huge, outright huge RPGs, and many of the people would play this. Just do a story-driven action RPG like the Halo is. Halo is not open world. Halo was never an open world, and Halo Infinite would be the first open world game in the Halo franchise, but people still loved it because it was all about the story, and you, BioWare, could do the same here with the Mass Effect. Another type of the Mass Effect game that I would love to see is, maybe like the Stellaris fans would understand this, I would love to see the Mass Effect strategy game. Yes, Mass Effect has a huge galaxy. What if we could play an entire Reaper War, or maybe even the same things like the Rachni Wars or Krogan Rebellions or even Prothean Wars or the First Contact Wars as a strategy? What you would say about the Mass Effect Total War? It would be amazing. The Stellaris Mass Effect mode that I actually played extensively on this channel proved that the Mass Effect strategy can be really, really interesting. Give us the galaxy to play with, give us the universe, and maybe allow us to shape the story of the Mass Effect however that we want, the history of the Mass Effect however we want, or maybe give us the story of, I don't know, the campaign of the Krogan Rebellions or the First Contact Wars, like for example the Total War series did, like on the different wars in a different timelines. Give us the ability to do so. It would have been simply amazing. Or do something like the Halo Wars did, like do a linear campaign and just do like not a huge, like very huge campaigns, but maybe very little campaigns, like you're controlling a few N7 squads, or the few maybe Hammerheads, or maybe a few Makos, or maybe a few Nomads, just to go and just battle on the very, very small scale, or maybe space battles as well. You could do so many things with the strategy, Mass Effect strategy games, and I'm sure that a lot of people would play this. But majority of you will ask the question, Nick, what about the Mass Effect 4? Would you not want to see the continuation of the Mass Effect trilogy? And to be fair, the answer is maybe I would want to see that, but there is not much to continue that. You cannot top off the Reaper threat there. What, maybe you could see some maybe extra galactic force coming to the Mass Effect universe, maybe the remnants attacking. Yes, you could do so, but what could you do different? There is not much that you could do different to top off the Reaper threat. Plus, the Mass Effect trilogy was all about the Shepard. It was trilogy of the Shepard. Shepard is dead. In 95% of the endings of Mass Effect 3, Shepard is dead. And even if you did a very, very small part where Shepard could survive, and yes, the only way he could survive is through the destroy ending of Mass Effect 3. Yes, he's still done. He's most likely will not survive, and even if he will survive, this is the end. This is the end of the Mass Effect trilogy. The only way probably the Mass Effect 4 could continue, maybe if it could in some way connect with the Mass Effect Andromeda, or maybe happening in Andromeda timeline where they get back, or maybe they get people coming from the Mass Effect main universe of the Milky Way galaxy. I don't know, there could be some ways for the Mass Effect 4, but it would not be the Mass Effect 4 without the Shepard, and Shepard's story is ended. You cannot do in the same way as Halo did, because in Halo 3, Master Chief did not die. He was still alive in the Halo 4. So his story continued, and the new trilogy started with the Halo 4. In Mass Effect thing, you basically Shepard's story is ended. He died, the Reaper threat is gone, and that's it. All the story has been gone. Plus, in Halo, even though Covenant was destroyed, the Covenant remnant still was alive, and in the Mass Effect, Reapers are gone. Whether you're controlling them, whether you're synthesized with them, or whether you're controlling them, or anything else, the Reapers are gone. The story has ended. So I don't think that Mass Effect 4 would be the great idea. I would rather keep Mass Effect universe alive with Andromeda 2, with the prequel stories, or with the strategy game. So what do you think? Which one of the Mass Effect games you would want to see in the future? Let me know in the comments down below. Well, this will be it for today. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya!